What's up, people? I'm Shaggy, the Opinionated Hippie, and this is part 59 of my reviewing and ranking Frank Zappa's guitar solos within the context of an album. Today's album is Waka, Wazoo, the box set that featured alternate mixes, alternate takes from the Waka Grand Wazoo sessions, a complete show from 1972, the end of December 72, and then a bunch of tracks from a George Duke recording session. And these songs would appear on a number of George Duke albums in the mid-70s. Frank produced this session, and he plays guitar on a number of the tracks. So there are 19 solos in total that I counted. I might have missed one. Some of those short things that are happening in the George Duke songs, I think I counted all of them. So I think I got all the songs. But yeah, hope I didn't miss anything. Whenever it's a big number, I'm always afraid I just missed something for some reason. But I don't think I did. So I'm going to talk about these 19 from 19 to 1. Just talk about them. At the end, I will put the list on the screen so you can see it. Then I will show where this album compares to the other albums based on guitar solos only. Just as an album, as a box set, this is in a top 10 for sure of everything that has been released after Frank passed away. Not sure where it would fall in the totality of all 120-ish approximate albums that have been released, but it's up there. It's easily top 10%. Yeah, it's up there. So maybe top 12. It's a great release. But anyways, let's just talk about the solos. All right, number 19, number 18, number 17, number 16, and even surprisingly number 15, and I'll tell you why that's a surprise, are all from the George Duke sessions. Really, Frank is not laying down 2-3 minute solos. He's got short little things that are maybe 4 bars. You know, they're in a rotation with other solos. The ones that I have at 18 and 19 are both from a song called For Love. And I think a lot of it, Frank just feels out of place. Like, I don't know what the final George Duke product sounds like compared to this. But here, it just sounds like Frank's like, the band did it. Frank's dropping a solo in as an overdub. It just feels kind of out of place. I have the first take at number 19. And then I have the demo at number 18. So there's 2 different versions of that. They're just kind of short. They're kind of squirrely. They kind of feel a little bit out of place. But yeah, they're interesting. But that would be For Love. Those would be at they're short. Yeah, the first one it's short and melodic, but it just doesn't quite fit. The other one, they're also both just really short. They don't kind of sound like they fit in with the vibe. Frank's guitar tone doesn't work. At 16 and 17, I think these do work better. Psychosomatic Dung. I have the demo at 17, the take 2 at 16. These solos work better within the context of what is a weirder, more proggier, jammier type song. It's just a little more freer. There's not much really to either one of these solos, but I do think they fit kind of right in to the groove a little bit better. The one that I have at 16, the higher ranked one, which was the basic track take 2, kind of sounds like typical 73 Frank playing, just that really just kind of a little bit frantic, but kind of a thinner tone, just kind of lots of just ideas coming in a flurry of just coming at you. No real like large conceptual idea overriding it. I do think the second one that is on here is just a little bit better. It fits a little bit better than the For Love ones. And then at number 15, surprisingly, I have Uncle Remus. Frank's pretty much, trying to play the same solo that's on the apostrophe one, if it's not the same solo, but it seems like it's doubled with another instrument, possibly Duke's keyboards. It's definitely that solo, but it just doesn't have that spontaneous, just that awesome vibe that the original apostrophe Uncle Remus solo has, which I might have put as my favorite solo on apostrophe, how much I like that solo. This one just doesn't grab me in the same one that one does. So that's at number 15. 14, we get a Montana. This is a live Montana from that late 72 show. It's kind of heavier than some of the other stuff in the show. It's pretty short. There's a number of really tasty moments throughout, but it's back here because, compared to the rest of the stuff on here and compared to most all other Montanas, especially as we hit 73 and especially as we hit 74, it's just It's satisfying. I like it, but it's just short and leaving me one a little more. 13 is the little dots from the live show. Yeah, it also just, it's a little bit too short, a little bit too passive, I think. It just feels like Frank is maybe like, I don't know. It's got a good vibe, but it does feel like Frank's just kind of floating along a little too easy. It just, I don't know. There's something about it that just doesn't immediately grab me. It starts off kind of cool. I think there's still some like horn action going, and Frank's kind of sneaking in, and then he kind of just kind of takes over at one point. Gets a little bit heavier about 3.5 minutes into it. There's some good ideas in this solo, and Frank goes for quite a while. But it just something's lacking in this solo that it doesn't quite grab me. But it's still pretty good. But it falls to 13 because the other stuff on here is better. Number 12 is Love, one of the George Duke demos. This is the first appearance of Love. It's on here twice. This is the actual demo version. There's 2 actual solos in here. There's like a short one that's really weird and groovy and squirrely early in. And then there's an ending one, kind of a full solo in the end that really just kind of works. Frank stretches out a little bit more. It works better within the context of the song. It seems to make more sense. It doesn't seem like it's just this overdub solo or just like Frank's gonna like, I'm just gonna insert myself in here. It works a little better. Surprisingly good. So that jumps up there. Number 11 is Minimal Art, the first appearance of Eat That Question. This is the version 1, take 2. And even before that the opening sort of vamp theme ends, Frank's already kind of getting himself in there and starting to solo. But these versions on this album, the way these are mixed, the Dunbar energy is so dramatic and so forceful and so powerful that Frank kind of just seems lost. Like it's almost like Dunbar are the redwoods and like Frank Solo are like the Ewoks, you know, skating through. Yeah, he's kind of going at a fast pace and he's not hitting any trees, but it just seems like the overwhelming just nature of the musical scene. I think Frank just, he feels lost in it. It just seems like it's just like a little too much for him at this point. He hasn't quite figured out how to really attack this song. Yeah, there's some good dancing energy, and Frank really is kind of moving all over the place. It's kind of a fun solo, but I do think there's something about his playing that just seems a little bit like Dunbar. Like the rhythm section in almost all of these things, when it's the Waka Wazoo stuff or even the live stuff, the rhythm section in all of that stuff is ridiculous. But especially in like the studio stuff from Waka Wazoo, it's just the Dunbar energy. And I think Erroneous on bass are just absolutely just take over and just like, it's fantastic. But that would be number 11. Number 10 and number 9 are both also Eat That Questions. Number 10 is the alternate mix. Number 9 is version 2, the alternate take. And I think with both of these, they're really aggressive. Frank's attacking. There's some really, really, really good energy. But like someone pointed this out, like I really like the Grand Wazoo version of it. I think that works for me perfectly. I mean, that's one of my all-time favorite albums. That solo is fantastic. But maybe because the mixing isn't done or Frank isn't done doing all of his editing or deciding what needs to be cut, what doesn't need to be cut. There's just both of these, as much as I really do like them, do seem a little too aggressive and out of place, even though they both kind of work and have the same sort of Eat That Question energy. What do I have about to say about these? Frank is very frantic. He's very in attack. The one that is version 2 is kind of a hot mess. It's just a glorious hot mess of frantic playing. The second one, which is at number 10, 9 is the frantic mess. The one that's at number 10 is the alternate mix. And I think this mix maybe buries Frank in a little bit of a better way, where somebody who didn't like the original version, I think maybe Frank is a little less abrasive and more balanced with Dunbar. But I like the over-the-top abrasive nature of the original mix. So for me, the alternate mix drops a little bit, though I do think some people might like it better. But I also really like the absolutely chaotic version that is version 2 with the alternate take. That's just kind of this all over the place chaotic mess, which I have at 9. Number 8 is Cosmic Debris. Um, I like the Cosmic Debris because when I was listening to this, Little Dots is first as a solo. Then you get the Montana solo, and both of those don't seem very like there doesn't seem to be a continuity within the solo. It just seems like Frank's playing, even though the Little Dots is a little bit longer. Montana, it does seem like he's just looking for an idea. The Cosmic Debris just has a very distinct start to it. Kind of hesitant in a way at times, but in a purposeful, like, this is the vibe I'm going for this. And then when we get the first turn, Frank just all of a sudden gets heavier and kind of digs in a little bit. And that completely makes sense considering what was going on in like the first number of bars. And then once we go there, it feels like we get that heavier turn on the first turn. And then on the second turn, which is kind of our last run, it seems like the solo just naturally builds. And it seems like there's a natural progression. And in the live show, this is the first solo where I'm like, okay, Frank has an idea of what he was going to do going into it. He wasn't searching for ideas. And there's something about it that just is like, yeah, I like it. It's not the greatest solo, but I do think the sort of Frank is delivering like a single statement in the solo, and I appreciate that. A 7, all the way up at number 7, we get the other version of Love, the George Duke session outtake basic track take 1. This is just great. Frank is like almost all over this solo. This is like there's a lot of jams that pop up, and Frank's getting a short solo here, then another solo here, then a little solo here, and then middle. I think it's the second of the 3 solos. It's just really good, and Frank's digging in. He gets time to stretch out, and it almost feels at time like, well, wait, is this just a Frank Zappa guitar solo vehicle? Is that what this is? It's not, but it's by far of the studio George Duke stuff, I think the more like you hear Frank feels like he's more in his natural habitat, and it feels more like he's expressing himself in the way that we're used to as Frank Zappa fans. Now he's in the George Duke world. It just works really well, and his playing is really good, really intense, very intense wah energy in the very short first solo, but then the second solo just kind of goes and goes and goes, and it just gets better. And Frank's very present in this entire thing. It's pretty good. Though, to be clear, I almost have the same numerical score for Love, Cosmic Debris, Eat That Question, and Minimal Art. There's not much difference between this run right here, but I do think sort of the continuity of the ones that are higher up kind of make me appreciate those a little more. Number 6, we take kind of a big jump at this point. Not a big jump, but a slight jump to Blessed Relief. I like this Blessed Relief. I think this Blessed Relief is much stronger than the one on the album version. This is Blessed Relief, the outtake version. There are 2 solos. There's a very short first solo, jazzy, smooth, very tasty, but just way too short. And then he returns towards the end. And it seems like he has like it's either there's no effects on it, or he's plugged directly into the board or whatever, or there's maybe an acoustic with amps. I don't know. It's got a different sound on it. And I did not look up to see what actual guitar he's playing on that. I know that information's out there. But the vibe just works. I just think it works. It fits really well within the context of Blessed Relief. He goes for quite a while. So it just kind of, he gets a chance to kind of stretch out a little more. Yeah, and I just like it. I just think it's really strong, really interesting, really cool. At first, every time he starts playing, I'm like, oh, I don't like that sound. But as it goes on and on, I just kind of like, okay, that kind of works within the context of the song. I do think the first one, even though it's much, much shorter, might just be a little bit tastier. It's almost like a quick little appetizer. It's a little like one bite appetizer that's just delicious. The second one maybe doesn't taste as well, but it's nice that Frank gets to explore. Number 5, the Waka Jawaka outtake version. This outtake version, it's also got that thin acoustic-y sound in the beginning of it. The tone, I have to admit, is a little underwhelming, but the ideas, the playing, what Frank is putting out there, like what is actually the content of the solo and not the way the solo sounds, is really good. And as it goes on and on and on and on and on and then on again, it just keeps getting better. And like, I think if it had stopped after 1 or 2 minutes, I'd be like, okay, interesting, but this thing goes on for like 6+ minutes, and Frank just keeps playing and playing. There's some really nice chordal action going on where he's getting maybe a little bit funkier, a little just like quirkier, like a little, it's just really good energy. And then that eventually goes into like a little drum break, and then we get some more outro soloing before the song ends. But this, and there's a couple others on here where it almost seems like in real time, you could hear Frank just getting better. Like, not that he wasn't already good, but like he starts off a solo, maybe not really knowing what he wants to do in this space. And then as it continues, it's like, oh yeah, he figures it out and it just gets better. And I think this is the perfect example of it. Because like if he had pulled the plug after like 1 or 2 minutes, I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. It wasn't really going anywhere. But then around 3 minutes, you're like, oh no, this is getting good. 4 minutes, yeah, keep going. 5, 6, yeah, just keep soloing, Frank. I'm here for you. But that's my number 5, the Waka Jawaka, the outtake version. Number 4 and number 3 are both big Swifties. Number 4 is the alternate take. The first solo, which comes in around 5 minutes and 30 seconds, before it like kind of gets heavier and kind of gets to a little more focused and stronger finish. The first part of it also sounds like Frank is in like this large jazz playroom that is like the big Swifty middle section, and he's just like, oh, there are so many things I can do. I can do a little bit of this, a little bit of this. What am I going to do? And he just is like playing with all these ideas. Then it gets a little bit heavier, and at that point when it gets heavier, it seems like there's just this sort of evolution of ideas. Oh no, the heavier solo's at the end, right? The first solo, which is way too short when he's playing around, it's just like, that's what it is. But then he returns at the end of the song. It's much heavier. Things are kind of slowing down, but Frank's coming in. He's a lot more focused. He's stronger. He's definitely very definitive about what he does. And then we just get this awesome, frantic, skittish, crazy, near chaotic ending towards it. So we have two solos. A very playful, all over the map, kind of almost ADHD type solo, and then one where Frank's like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. When I come back in, this is what I'm going to do. Watch, this is crazy. And then he does it. 2 solos. We also got 2 solos in the Ether Question, where Frank starts off and he comes back at the end. The Blessed Relief has 2 solos. So there's a number of these where Frank's dropping a couple solos, which is interesting. Number 2 is Waka Jawaka, the alternate mix. This is the same solo, but what Frank did was he edited out a whole bunch of little snippets of solos throughout what is a much lengthier solo. And it's almost like, I figure for like a director's cut of a movie, right? Where a lot of times maybe you have to shorten a movie, and so you leave in the things that are going to drive the plot, but maybe take out the other stuff. And I feel like when Frank edits his solos, if I'm able to compare like something like an Inca Roads on One Size Fits All, or the Pick Me I'm Cleans, or stuff where he's edited them to be shorter than what we know they are, Any Kind of Pain, he's leaving out the things that sort of develop the character. And they may not be important to like where the solo's going, and you still get the major sort of twists and turns and thematic elements, but it's those little parts, those little things that Frank leaves behind that are like the character building, like a conversation between 2 characters that like maybe give you a little insight to what's going to happen or what already happened. And I feel that Frank leaves a lot of those things on the editing floor. And I think this Waka Jawaka solo is the perfect example of that, because this one it's better. It's longer. There's so many little tasty treats that like build up to those like changes that we know are coming if you know the solo. It just seems a little more weirder, a little more exploratory. It's still very much within the Waka Jawaka framework, so we're not going really far out there. But it just, I don't know. I understand he has to shorten these things and maybe doesn't want to be too overindulgent, but this solo, I think, works fantastic. That's the Waka Jawaka alternate mix. And then my favorite solo on here, it's live. It's Chunga's Revenge. I think it's the absolutely last thing in the box set. It's just great. Kind of reminds me in a lot of ways of sort of like a Dupree's from 74, maybe a Zoodalures from like early 76, where like we start off just very kind of light and jazzy and free and exploratory, and then we just kind of progress to different ideas, very patient building, kind of dynamic, and that we're all over the place. It starts about 8.5 minutes into it, gets more intense about 13 and a half minutes into it. We get some Chunga's quotes in there where he's kind of playing around with the Chunga theme. Then we go really back to like a really chill part of it. The horns come in at one point and start adding things in the background. Yeah, it's just really kind of fun. When Frank starts off, he's kind of like tiptoeing in. For like the first, I think 4 bars, there's horn work going in the background, doing the Chunga's Revenge theme, and then those drop out, and then Frank kind of comes in all like light and fancy and like, all right, I'm here, look at me, and kind of dances around a little bit before he like kind of just buckles down and gets more intense. But the Chunga's Revenge solo, that's one of those where like, if you're a Frank guitar solo fan, you're like, okay, this is one of those solos where you can see where we're going to be going with like a Dupree's Paradise for the next 2 years. And we can see how Frank's going to start having these moments in shows where it's like, I'm just going to take my time to develop these ideas and explore. He was doing it with King Kong in 71. This is a really good example of how he was doing it in 72. Continue with Dupree's into 73. So yeah, I think the Chunga's Revenge, I think, is the most interesting solo on here for my tastes. But yeah, anyways, that's what they look like in writing right there. I think I capitalized something I shouldn't capitalize. Yeah, version down there. But anyways, yeah. I really think they're all surprisingly good solos. Like, those Eat That questions, even though they're all ranked right there in the middle, I think those are still pretty entertaining. Really, the only stuff that I'm like, is, down the bottom of the list, the George Duke stuff. It's just kind of, it's there to, almost like a placeholder solo, it seems like. Sadly, I do not know what the originals sound like. I know I've listened to those George Duke albums in the past, but I did not re-listen to them and do an A-B comparison, so I can't tell you. But if you know, let me know whether they were left in the final versions or not. So I'm sure they probably were in some form. But anyways, that's all I got. Yeah. Oh, where would I rank this album among the others? Among the other 58. I have it right there, right above Waka Jawaka. I like Waka Jawaka. Grand Wazoo is way back at the end of the list, if you notice, at 51, even though I think Grand Wazoo is a better album. That's a top 5 album for me, but not the guitar solos. Waka Jawaka, I like the guitar solos a little better. Big Swifty, Waka Jawaka, fantastic. This one I had to put right above it. There's some duds on here that lower the overall rating, but I think the Waka Jawaka solo is better. The Big Swifty solo, I don't know. Even though one is an alternate mix, I think I do like the mix on the original. There's something really, really, really cool about that. But yeah, that's where I put it, right there at number 23. That sounds about right? I don't think there's anything on here as awesome as like Pick Me, I'm Clean from Tinseltown Rebellion, which is why that's right above it. I absolutely love that solo. But anyways, all right, that's all I got. Yeah, thanks for watching. Let me know your thoughts. Subscribe, like, share. Go listen to this entire box set. It's fantastic. Let me know what your favorite solo is, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate it, all that kind of stuff. Peace, and talk to you later.